If you have been dismissed for gross misconduct, you may be wondering whether or not you have a claim against your employer for unfair dismissal. In this video blog, I'm going to cover two broad areas. Firstly, your employer's procedural obligations when dismissing somebody for gross misconduct, and secondly, the legal test as to whether or not their decision to dismiss you for gross misconduct was reasonable. Firstly, the procedure which the employer should follow is very broadly as follows. If your employer suspects that you have committed an act of gross misconduct, normally the first thing they would do is to suspend you on full pay pending an investigation. The suspension should be as short as possible. During your suspension, they will be entitled to speak to colleagues, look at the evidence which they have against you to support their belief that you are guilty of gross misconduct. They will frequently also ask you to attend an investigatory meeting in order that you can give your side of the story. Once their investigation is concluded, they will be obliged to invite you to a disciplinary meeting. Prior to this meeting, they should write to you, inviting you to the meeting and setting out what, broadly speaking, the allegations are against you. They should also advise you in that letter of your statutory rights to be accompanied by a fellow colleague or a trade union member. During this disciplinary meeting, it is essential that your employer provides you with all of the evidence against you in order that you can properly defend yourself. In these circumstances, the principles of natural justice apply, which essentially means that the employee should be advised of the case against him in full and be given the opportunity to fully defend himself. At the conclusion of this disciplinary meeting, you should have had the opportunity to explain your side of the story, and your employer is then entitled, after that disciplinary hearing, to reach a decision as to whether or not you should be punished for your gross misconduct. And there are a number of options available to your employer. They can, if they want to, drop the allegation of gross misconduct. They can issue you with a verbal or a written warning, or ultimately they can decide to terminate your contract of employment on the basis that you have committed an act of gross misconduct. They should advise you of their decision in writing, and in the event that they do dismiss you for gross misconduct, they should also advise you within the letter dismissing you of your right to appeal the decision to dismiss you and of your right to bring a colleague or a trade union representative to the appeal hearing. That is, very broadly speaking, the procedure which an employer should go through prior to dismissing an employee for gross misconduct. The second area I want to look at is the legal test which is applicable in these circumstances. An employer cannot simply go through the procedure that I've just described and then dismiss somebody for gross misconduct. Their decision to dismiss an employee for gross misconduct has to be reasonable in all the circumstances. They need to genuinely believe that you are guilty of gross misconduct. Their belief in your guilt has to be reasonable and based upon the information which they have gathered during the investigation. If you are able to prove or persuade a tribunal that the decision to dismiss you for gross misconduct is, in all the circumstances, an unreasonable decision, it may be possible for you to challenge your dismissal for gross misconduct. If you feel as though you have an unfair dismissal claim following your being dismissed for gross misconduct, please feel free to call me on the number above or fill out the online assessment form to the right of the screen. I will then undertake a free assessment of your case, and in the event that I feel that you have a case which can be taken forward, I will offer to represent you on a no-win, no-fee basis.